I'm not here to put anyone off meditating. I'm here to have a mature conversation about it and not just try to present it as the be all, fix all for absolutely everything. And you should be able to use it anytime, irrespective of what your emotional climate, your mental health, or what's going on in your life or what's happened in your past. I think we need to be a bit more careful when it comes to recommending meditation. I want to do my due diligence with that.
Hello and welcome to the Mind Detox podcast. I'm your host, Sandy Newbigging. For today's episode, I'm sharing an extract from one of my recent online club meetings, which you can join at minddetox.club. We have an honest and mature conversation about meditation, including when you want to meditate, when you really should not meditate, some potential negative side effects of meditation, and the kinds of things that meditation really should not be used for. Now, it is not my intention to talk anyone out of meditating. However, at the same time, I believe it's important for more people to be aware as to why meditation isn't always the right tool for everyone, all of the time. And if after listening to today's podcast, you want to work on any issues raised during today's episode, then head over to my website, minddetox.com, to book some one-on-one sessions with me.
Now, the last time I did this, I was in Arizona and I did a meditation workshop for the club. In 2017, I discovered. 2018, I can't remember exactly when, but it was a while ago. And so it's about time I do it. And it was really interesting for me to go over the plan that I had for that workshop and see how much my own experience, insight and understanding into meditation, how much it's changed in that time. And so today we're going to have a very honest conversation about meditation. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the sometimes ugly, and the beautiful, of course, aspects of meditation. But I want it to be an honest, authentic conversation, because I think, you know, it's almost unfashionable or just not done to ever talk about the so-called negative aspects of meditation, the times when you really shouldn't be meditating, and what can happen from not just a purely positive side, but also a negative side as well when it comes to meditation. It's really important that we know this so that you actually have a more informed, I want to say adult, but maybe mature relationship with meditation. Maybe that's a better word than adult. So that's my intention for this session. Is that okay, guys? Can I have some thumbs up from people at the top of my screen? Yeah. You know, the purpose of meditation is to be yourself. I've said that all along. It's to know thyself. It's to find inner peace and stillness, to transcend the mind-made fears and limitations and the mind-made problems. It's to reconnect with the infinite being in which all doing is taking place. Now, before we learn to meditate, we usually are only aware of and fully identified in the transient, temporary parts of life. I'm talking our thoughts, our emotions, our physical sensations, the world happenings, and our life circumstances. But that tends to be what is capturing the majority of our attention on a daily basis. And what that means is the content of life, the content of our mind and emotions and body, health-wise, and the content of the world and circumstances are having a massive influence on the quality of our life. So the content of our life has a massive impact on the quality of our life. Now, with meditation, we can also discover the permanent, unchanging context of ourself, this still, silent, spacious inner presence of being, which is always calm, well, fearless, and free. We can heal our relationship with the temporary stuff. We can heal a relationship with our mind, our emotions, our body, and what's going on with it. We can heal a relationship with our life circumstances and this wider world that we find ourselves living in. Through meditation, we discover that the content of my life doesn't have to have such a big influence on the quality of my life, that things can happen outside my own personal preferences and desires, but I can still maintain a sense of well-being, of peace, of clarity, of freedom. And we can live with a lot less anxiety and fear at the same time. Now, I am an advocate of different tools for different times, okay? I'm an advocate for different tools for different times. And meditation, I gotta be honest, is not always the right tool for all times. Now, I know this with mindfulness and meditation being such a booming business at the moment, it's very, not said that there might be anything that, negative at meditation. But I think it's important we have this conversation, like I said, so that we can have a more mature relationship with meditation. And we can know when it's the right tool for us, certain times when we maybe shouldn't be meditating. Yeah, I just said it. There's times when it might not be appropriate to be meditating. And understanding this can help you to be actually more gentle on yourself, not cause you to become self-violent and start blaming yourself if you're not getting the results you think you should be getting from meditation. And so we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the beautiful of meditation. And the agenda for this next little while together, I've got it written here: when to meditate, when not to meditate, the lesser known negative side effects of meditation, why you want to meditate, how to meditate, what happens when you meditate, and the optimal meditation mindset. So there might be a couple of things in there that are familiar, and there may be a few things in there that we haven't covered before when we've talked about meditation. And so I hope you enjoy our time together. Does it sound good again? Yeah, are you happy? Are you relieved that this is not going to be the same old meditation chat as always? I think it's important. When I went through my notes, I was really like, I got to be honest, I was quite extremist when it came to the meditation, and I've personally found a much more comfortable middle ground with meditation, which I feel is actually a healthier relationship with the whole subject. So, when to meditate? Well, you want to meditate if you want to have a less stressful life. It's a bit obvious, but you want to meditate if you want to have a less stress-filled life. Now, I always like to talk about the bathtub analogy when talking about stress and meditation, whereby imagine a bathtub and you've got a shower over the top of it, and the water coming out into the shower and filling up the bath would be, in this analogy, stress. So on the average person going about their day, the shower is running and their body, their nervous system, their mind, their being, it's just kind of filling up with accrued stress. Now, meditation, when you start meditating, it's equivalent of doing two things. The closed eye meditation is equivalent of pulling the plug out. And so the stress that's been stored can start to reduce in this bathtub. Open-eyed meditation, which you can also do, where you're aiming to engage the meditative state during your day. You're aiming to use the meditation techniques and engage present moment awareness, etc., during your day. That's equivalent of turning the amount of water coming out the shower. So you reduce the amount of stress coming in with your open-eyed, and you take the plug out or a few plugs out of this bath with the closed-eye meditation. And the overall result, obviously, is less stress. Now, less stress is less ill health usually. It's usually less intense energy in your body. It's usually less intense physical sensations. It's also usually less thoughts as well, because a lot of our thoughts are just stress releasing and moving, and the mind reacting to that stress movement within the body. You want to meditate if you want to sleep without having to count sheep or rely on external vices like having the TV on or the radio on or something on in order to distract you from your mind. You know, a lot of people find sleep scary. The idea of going into a room, turning lights off, and just being with themselves in the darkness. And as they start to relax, the daily demons can arrive. And so meditation and using meditation as a way of entering into sleep can be a really powerful technique to have. And it can also heal your relationship with sleep, because what you'll find is you get a lot of rest and recovery through meditation. And I personally have found I don't need as much sleep as I used to, because I actually am meditating and regenerating and resting throughout my day. I'm not just using energy the entire time I'm in waking state. We can use meditation if you want to help your body to heal. Like I said, it reduces stress, and you know that stress in the body and the nervous system is linked with a multitude of physical conditions. It increases rest, which aids recovery. Also, meditation creates the kind of inner climate required to promote more sustained health. And certain meditations, like the one that I recommended with body calm meditation, can actually help us to change our mindset and attitudes so that we can have a healthy relationship with life and no longer have these mind-based root causes running, because we're actually having a healthy relationship, a healthier mindset. I'll talk more about that in a bit. You want to meditate if you want to experience more calm. It's a bit of an obvious one, but if you want to experience more calm, you want to meditate, because you discover that beyond the content of your thoughts, emotions, and body and life, there is this context of consciousness, and that consciousness which is within you, and it is you, and you're experiencing all of life through, is always calm. And we tend to miss that inner peace that's always present, because we become fully identified and put all our attention on the movement. And when we discover this inner stillness, we discover that stillness equals peace. Okay. We can also experience more contentment with meditation, because you're learning to fill your attention up with now. And now, over time, becomes enough. You're so filled up with now, there's no space within you to enter and entertain lack and limitation and wrongness. So you're no longer drifting into, it was better then, or I wish it was different, and I'll be happy when I get someplace in the future. So contentment is a massive benefit of meditation. But confidence, a lot of people are relying on the voice in their heads to tell them how confident they are. They're relying on the voice in their head to tell them how good enough they are, or how worthy they are, or how lovable they are. They are listening to the voice in their head way too much when it comes to worrying about what other people might think about them. And all of these things can impact confidence. And when you no longer engage in that dynamic with thought, thinking, and letting it talk you out of your self-esteem, your lovability, your enoughness. So confidence is a massive underrated benefit of meditation. We can also have more loving relationships, because we're less judgmental, we're more present, we're more kind and understanding. We cultivate more compassion, and we also experience more oneness with ourself. And a lot of the relationship conflict comes from a disconnection with ourself and this attachment to trying to find ourselves in someone else. And so as we discover this inner self which is a sense of being, a presence of being, and that being is very much love, it's unconditional, it's ever present, and it's all embracing. Naturally, as we heal a relationship with ourselves, we heal our relationships with other people. It's a natural benefit, natural byproduct. We get to live in the present moment. So you want to use meditation if you want to live more in the present moment. If you know that you're a bit of a thinker and a dweller and a future projector, and you know you don't spend as much time as you could in the present moment, then the right kinds of meditation will help you to attune your attention back to the present moment. It'll help us to strengthen our attention muscle so that we're not, that our attention can remain here gently without effort, and not be grabbed by anything that might pass through our mind or our moment. So it's a very, very powerful benefit, this being present. Talking of which, we can eradicate excessive thinking. So if you know that you are a bit of an overthinker and you're feeling you're thinking a lot of your day and you want to learn to think less, then meditation is definitely for you. You can also perform at your best, or you can at least perform a lot better. I don't know what even best means, but you can perform much better because you're more focused, more patient, persistent, creative, intuitive. Oh, the list goes on. And there's a lot less engagement and identification in this inner voice that can be distracting you from things. I remember when I was doing a meditation course once, I was asked to memorize a little book. It had a lot of words in it, and I had to memorize it verbatim and say it back, to someone verbatim. And I had dyslexia. I had so many limiting thoughts that came up for me when presenting with that task. It was a real incredible gift that I was given with that challenge, because what I saw was if I was just focused on the word that I was remembering, I could do it. But as I was doing it, as I was trying to remember it or memorize it, I would see my mind want to go into the past, want to go into the future, want to jump ahead, want to start talking to me, saying, I can't do this. This is impossible. I've got this, that, and the next thing. I was terrible at English class. And all that stuff impacts our performance at whatever we're doing. I'm just using a little analogy, that little story, that little example. But really, when you learn to attune your attention back to the present moment and the presence within you, and you're not distracted by all this movement in the mind, there's more quietness and calm for you to be able to hear your creativity and intuition and wisdom. Performance naturally rises. And ultimately, you want to meditate if you recognize that you've been stressing, struggling, or suffering. And Buddha said, no mind, no problem. And a lot of the suffering that we experience comes from identification in mind, and meditation helps us to be less identified in the movement of the mind and use the mind as a tool, but not be used by the mind like a tool. Okay, so that's when you would want to meditate. Does that sound good, guys? Is that a nice reminder? Hopefully it might be a good motivation of, yes, I've been reminded as to why I want to do this, and I'm so excited to start doing this again. When not to meditate. We don't often hear about this sort of conversation, but it's really important. You don't want to meditate if you are clinically depressed. If you're officially clinically depressed, studies have found, or not many studies, because there's not many studies being done on this, but studies have been found that meditation while clinically depressed can result in intensification of feelings of despondency, hopelessness, despair, and negativity in general. Okay? So if you know that you're clinically depressed, I would not, at that moment in your journey, be turning to meditation. It can intensify things for you, and you may want to instead turn to more classical things like counseling, therapy, and that sort of thing at that exact moment in your journey, and then move into meditation when you aren't dealing with clinical depression. I would also not recommend meditating if you're feeling super anxious. Okay, if you're feeling super anxious. Meditation offers space and time to be with ourselves. And if you're feeling really anxious, that can be a really uncomfortable experience for you. It can be really uncomfortable. You're basically got all this energy churning, you're feeling really intense, your palms are sweating, your heart's going, or whatever your particular manifestation and symptoms of anxiety might be, and you're being told just to sit still and be with it. That can be really tricky at that point in your journey. Okay, I wouldn't put myself through that suffering of just trying to sit for 20 minutes, like just with nothing but these intense energies and emotions. I would actually personally recommend you do things to help to re-regulate your nervous system, and bring that intense anxiety down to a more comfortable level, a level that you're actually able to sit with and learn to find peace with. Does that seem like a reasonable thing? I've seen too many times people with severe anxiety being told to go away, shut their eyes, and meditate through it, and that's actually very violent for the individual, and it can cause more harm than good. When else should you maybe not meditate? If you've got serious life events going on. Now, what I mean by that is, when I was researching this, one person gave the example of how they were going on a 10-day Vipassana retreat where they had to sit in silence for many hours a day. And just a couple of days before they went on that retreat, their relationship broke down. They had a relationship breakup. And they decided, well, no, I'm going to go on the retreat to make myself feel better from the relationship. But actually, it was too soon. It was too recent, too kind of personal. And he basically sat in suffering for several hours a day for 10 days. And it was not good for him. It's not what he needed at that moment in time. At that moment in time, he probably, instead of a 10-day Vipassana retreat, he probably needed the company of a good friend. He probably needed a hug, or he probably needed to talk to his therapist or something at that point, but not just going and sitting still and quiet with your eyes closed when you've got this major thing on your mind, major thing that might be happening in your life. That, again, can be very challenging. Now, some people might be able to do it. Some people who have been meditating for many years, who have got a really strong experience of stillness, maybe, who can surrender through it, maybe they might be able to. I'm not saying you should never meditate if you have a bad event happen in your life. I'm not saying that. But I'm wanting to plant a seed to tell you that sometimes different tools for different times, okay? Different tools for different times. We got thumbs up. Do you understand why we're covering this? Okay. And the fourth reason I want to share with you, or the fourth time when you really might not want to be meditating, is if you have significant unresolved past trauma. Okay. This is because it is absolutely proven that when you're meditating, it's possible for you to remember suppressed negative memories, okay, which can be hard to handle on your own. All right. So if you absolutely know I have got significant past trauma that I've not worked on yet, then I would be saying maybe don't jump into meditation. I would say jump more into working with professionals to help you to clear that trauma. And from that, once you've done that, then I would absolutely wholeheartedly recommend meditation. But I wouldn't want you to be on your own at home, meditating for long hours, and have stuff that is overwhelming, that's been maybe suppressed and stuff arise up. I would want to protect you from that possibility. So if you want to meditate and you might have stuff in the past, at least be meditating alongside working with a therapist or something so you can call upon them if anything does arise. Make sure you've got the support network around you so that if anything does come up, you can pick up the phone, you can have a call, you can have a Zoom call, or you can have a meeting one-to-one in person. Have the support network ready if anything does come up. Is that clear, guys? Really, really important. So does that make sense? Do you understand why it's important to have this conversation about when not to meditate? Because it can lead to a lot of harm, and more harm than good, should I say? And it can put people off meditation for life if they have negative experiences in the early days, and it can lead to a lot of self-violence and more negative and self-criticism because they think they should be feeling better than this. I've been meditating and it's not working, or I'm not doing it right. And it can lead to a lot of self-violence at that moment in time. So I wouldn't want you to go through that. Now, we are going to have a very upbeat, optimistic conversation about meditation, but I also, whilst we're on the subject of when not to meditate, I did want to mention some of the negative side effects of meditation. Is this okay? Kirsten said, I'm so grateful you're talking about this. Yes, important information. Helen says, okay, cool. Thank you. Now, there's not a lot of studies on this. It's not in vogue, and even with the studies that have been done, it's low percentages of people that do experience these adverse reactions. And there's also usually a background context as to why these people are having these certain reactions. But I want to highlight that the most common, like 8 or so potential negative side effects. And I share this because you might want to look out for it. Make sure you're not meditating in a way that you could actually be experiencing this. So meditation can sometimes, and we're talking usually under 10%, okay, for people, can sometimes create a dysregulated arousal. And what that means is energy problems, disrupted sleep and wake cycles. Okay, so for some people, although meditation can really help with sleep, a limited number of people can actually find that it impacts their sleep. Some people can experience anxiety as a result of meditating. How bizarre is that? I think it's to do with what we mentioned earlier about suppressed things, maybe coming up for resolution, coming up for healing. We can discover them. And if we don't have the resources or the support to deal with it in the moment, then it can create some anxiety. Also remember that when we are starting to relax, the body releases stress, and that can be it can be a flood of stress, and that can be experienced as, anxiety. Some people can experience these signs of disassociation. They stop being so associated with reality. They actually start kind of floating into the clouds and becoming a bit too spiritual, a bit too woke, a bit too out there. And some people can experience emotional blunting, which is basically they can start to feel emotionless. Now ungrounded. Thanks, Heather. Some people can experience emotional blunting, emotionless. Now that can either come through being in freeze, or maybe other reasons that I'm not aware of. But one of the things that in a couple of studies they've listed is emotional blunting. Some people can experience flashbacks, which we mentioned before. They can have compromised cognitive dysfunction. So they can actually start having problems making decisions. They get memory lapses, cognitive impairments. So that's quite interesting. And I've seen that. I've seen people that have done long hours of meditation starting to not be able to remember things. And in that group and community, they would actually play it off as, oh, I'm just so present, I can't remember anything. But actually, now that I look back with this understanding, these people were doing 10, 12 hours of meditation a day, and I think they were actually experiencing compromised executive dysfunction. Cognitive impairment, basically, memory loss. There can be some with social withdrawalment with meditation. We can kind of lose our social skills, our desire to interact with others. We can kind of run away into our cave and not want our peace to be disrupted by anyone, and we can start to withdraw from society. And there can also be perceptual hypersensitivity. Now, on one hand, that can be experienced as our senses being heightened, things becoming more beautiful and bright and tastier, and so there can be a hypersensitivity from that way. But also, that ticking clock can start driving you mad, or sounds become more intense, or sensations and things like that. So there can be a hypersensitivity. Now, if you are ever experiencing these, what do you do about it? Well, first of all, I want you to know that they're not new. These side effects have been written about in very, very old texts. There's some Buddhist textual sources that are hundreds and hundreds of years old that list these possible side effects. So it's not a new thing. It's just not discussed much because the market value of mindfulness and meditation makes it kind of inconvenient to ever mention this when you're, telling people about meditation. And I don't want to play a part in that if that's happening. out there. So what the researchers have looked at is, if people are experiencing these sort of side effects, what are the common factors that tend to be running? And the first common factor is duration of meditation. Now, I've always been an advocate of quality over quantity. Okay. Yes, when I was training to be a meditation teacher, I was encouraged to meditate as much as possible. I wouldn't run a retreat that way with what I know now. I would focus more on quality, not quantity. That's why in my personal practice in a day, I'm doing, 20 to 30 minute a couple times a day, as opposed to, hours and hours and hours. I find that much more sustainable, much more healthy. So duration has been a factor. So we're talking like where people have been on retreats where they're asked to meditate for 12 to 15 hours a day, then these can be, they often result in people feeding back. They can feed back these negative side effects. Okay, so if you ain't meditating for 12 to 15 hours a day, you're probably going to be okay. But keep in mind the times when you shouldn't be meditating as well in the context of this conversation. Another reason for it can be a lack of guidance, just a simple lack of guidance. When one of the ladies researchers called Britton presented a research to the Dalai Lama about this in 2012, he suggested the harm could be brought on by meditation due to a lack of fuller knowledge and an understanding of the fuller picture. So in other words, a lack of greater understanding of what meditation can do, a lack of guidance along the way from people that are more experienced. And also be careful if you're experiencing these sorts of symptoms, choose your teacher wisely as to who you talk to. Because I know a lot of teachers that would just tell you to meditate through it. They wouldn't necessarily understand. They might even subtly belittle you for having these experiences, and just say that it might just explain, oh, it's just the mind, or it's just stress release. And although they might be at some level of development true, at some level of a person's journey, it might be true, depending on where a person's at, they might not just need to be told to meditate through it. They might actually need to be recommended to meditate less. They might need to work with a therapist to clear the traumas, or have more peace with what's going on in their life, or clear the clinical depression, the anxiety, or whatever factors might be going on for them. So choose to talk to someone who's going to take you seriously, who's not going to gaslight you or anything, and get guidance from. Just choose wisely when it comes to who you get guidance from. That's all I'll say. Is that clear? Do you know why? Does that make sense? Why we're sharing that? So, is this what you expected me to be covering when I said we're going to do meditation? Maybe not, but hopefully you're finding it interesting. Has anyone decided that they're going to quit meditating at this point in the process? I'm kind of curious. I hope. If you're unsure whether you should meditate, you're very welcome to reach out and have a conversation with me, or talk to someone who understands this and can give you some genuine feedback. I'm not here to put anyone off meditating. I'm here to have a mature conversation about it, and not just try to present it as the be all, fix all for absolutely everything. And you should be able to use it anytime, irrespective of your emotional climate, your mental health, or what's going on in your life, or what's happened in your past. I think we need to be a bit more careful when it comes to recommending meditation. I want to do my due diligence with that. So with this all in mind, why do you want to meditate? Why do you want to meditate? I'll see if I can answer that, Heather, in a minute. Why do you want to meditate? With all that in mind, with the benefits and the disclaimer aside, please let me know. What would your reason be for wanting to start or continue a meditation practice? And I'd love for you guys that are watching just to let me know in the chat box. The common question I'd ask for this would be that if you had a magic wand and you could have one thing, what would you wish for? So what would you wish for? by having a meditation routine. We've got Moira saying to be calmer. Andrew, to be present more and less controlled by my mind. Cool response. Kirsten, to know that peace is available. Lovely. Suji, for a peaceful, calmer, more spiritual life. Lovely. Ilka, to see my thoughts. To be able to choose peace in any given moment, Catherine says. Lovely. Sandy Day, to maintain more balanced life or more life balance. Lovely. Peace, always peace, Maria says. Freedom from overthinking and contentment, Antonia. Freedom and calm, not attaching to mind thoughts, Helen has responded. To not get stressed so easily, Natalia says. So these are all very valid, brilliant, beautiful reasons to meditate. And I encourage you to remember your answer to this question, because we want to return to our heart's highest hope, our motivation to meditate. We want to return to it regularly and remind ourselves of it often so that we can maintain our commitment and motivation to meditation. So it's really useful for you to remember that. There's going to be times when you don't feel like meditating. You feel it's an inconvenience or a distraction, or you might feel like you just don't feel like doing it today, or whatever. And it's really important to keep in mind your number one reason for meditating. But I'm going to, again, go off piece a little bit as to what you might expect. I'm going to tell you four intentions that I do not recommend you use for meditation. Does that make sense? Or said differently, I urge you not to use meditation for the following reasons, or for the following intentions. Okay? And this is from personal observation of a lot of people that meditate, a lot. And I've seen this time and time again, and I really urge you not to use meditation for these following reasons. Number one, to hide or avoid. Please do not use meditation to enter your spiritual cave and use meditation as a means to avoid life. The purpose of meditation is the exact opposite. The actual purpose of meditation is to learn how to completely meet all of reality, to completely engage all of yourself, your humanness, your thoughts, your emotions, your whatever's going on in your body, your life circumstances. It's the polar opposite to hide or avoid, but I've seen so many use it to find their spiritual cave and not come out and play with the rest of us in the real world. Number two, do not use meditation to deny anything difficult. Okay? I've seen a lot of people use meditation to deny or ignore the darker, more difficult side of life, where people say there is no bad, there is no evil in the world. They're just like they're unwilling to go there. They ignore what's going on. They use meditation to kind of go la 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 la. Yeah, everything's okay. Fingers in the ears, and they do that. And when you're trying to ignore, you're actually denying reality. It comes from fear, a fear to face or be honest with yourself. I please urge you to not use meditation to become passive or inactive. Okay? Some meditate when life is actually requiring their time, attention, and action, and they'll choose to meditate instead. When life is very clearly saying, actually, I need some time and attention and action from you right now. They believe they just have to stay still, and then God or the universe will take care of their money, relationship, or career issue. I'm sorry, but I haven't yet seen their career or money issue solved from the couch with them sitting doing absolutely nothing with their eyes closed. We got to meet the universe halfway. I do believe it's a co-creation experience. Don't get me wrong, but I see a lot of people becoming very passive and inactive. And they use a lot of the meditation and spiritual concepts in order to not take care of business. And then they wonder why they're broke, wonder why they're kind of trying to use meditation to avoid depression because they're lacking purpose in their life and things like that. Does that make sense, guys? They believe everything comes to them. They just have to stay still and God will fix this for them. So do not use meditation as a way to become passive or inactive. And finally, I would highly urge you not to, no, actually, there's two more, sorry. I missed one along the way. Do not use meditation to suppress feelings or avoid certain feelings. A lot of people use meditation and start trying to use it to avoid anything that isn't peace, their idea of peace. And they will actually use meditation to suppress the emotions. And these emotions arising up have a lot of wisdom within them. They are rising up for a reason. And if we push them down, we lose a lot of wisdom in life. So we need to not do that. And number 5, avoid a responsibility. Do not use meditation as a means to avoid responsibility to the point of being unaccountable for anything. When I was talking to Christina about this, she gave me these kind of examples of how she's heard people say, I don't need to change, or I don't need to fix the mini me. You know, the mini me doesn't need to be fixed, changed, or improved or anything. I just need to be the big me, and everything will be fine. That's not taking responsibility for what's necessarily going on for you. And that is not what we do meditation for. We actually, it's quite the opposite. We have the courage to use meditation to learn how to take responsibility, not in a self-violent way, but to recognize whatever's at my door, it's an invitation for me to do something about. We use meditation to be more open to feedback, to be more open to reflection, to not push away when life comes to you and says, hey, you might want to be gentler, kinder, more patient, or whatever. We use what we learn through meditation to actually learn how to be more willing to receive guidance from everyone and all things and everything. Is that clear, guys? So we don't use meditation to avoid responsibility, or to become passive or inactive, or to suppress our feelings, or to deny anything difficult, or to hide and avoid life. Actually, if you really want to learn how to live fully and completely, then meditation is a great tool to do the exact opposite of the very things that many people actually use meditation for. Is that okay, guys? Are we good? Is that clear? Makes sense? I'm trying to have a more honest, mature conversation about meditation today, so that you can avoid the common pitfalls of what people fall into. And I hope you find this useful. I really hope that you find this useful.
And if, after listening to today's podcast, you want to work on any issues raised during today's episode, then head over to my website, minddetox.com, to book some one-on-one sessions with me.